One of the things that jumps out, as you say, that's the first thing that really caught your attention is about the moves being made and liking what the Sixers front office did in acquiring Buddy Hield, campaign, Kyle Lowry for what they did. When he does, if and when he does eventually return, is that while Maxey is Maxey, he's the all-star, again, the Tobias Harris, whatever that piece is, it's that when he does come back, first of all, we shouldn't expect him to be the 35-point per game scorer when he returns, as he's trying to ramp himself up to get to the postseason. So with it, if they do make it into the postseason as well, and they are in there, he's relying on these others to do other things, clearly, as the additions that will do stuff to take some of that pressure off of him, take some of that responsibility off of him and Maxey, for that matter, and maybe even depending on, as we've talked about, the struggles of Tobias Harris, that these are players that he has trust in that will do winning things, make winning plays, hit winning shots, make winning drives, winning defensive plays, take winning charges. Who knows, whatever it may be, but just the overarching thing is something. They can do something that I'm not looking and I'm double teamed and I see player X over here who I just simply do not trust to throw the ball to. Yeah. Why would I make this pass when I can just do it myself? And even my missed shot is better than their wide open shot. But with these players, he feels like they're good enough to come in and help out. And again, he doesn't have to do every single thing that he felt like outside of he and Tyrese Maxey. And that's important because we've talked about it as much as we have. Joel Embiid clearly watches our show for him to say all the things that he said about his new teammates. But with it, it's just we can't expect him to do everything when he comes back because the meniscus thing is real. I was even had a chance to speak to someone about that particular injury when coming back. And we've talked about him, at least how it was explained to me. We should expect him to be on a minute restriction when he comes back and not have to ramp it up as much. So if he's out there in increments of, let's say, 4 or 5 minutes, they're still going to have to do things. And if he's playing 15 to 20 minutes, maybe as high as 25, these others are going to have to do some things. And for him to say that publicly, he's not, and you've talked about it, Derek, where he's always been very good as a superstar and not getting in the way of things when it comes to the personnel additions. But for him to say that, of course, publicly, that is good to hear because for the most part, we've liked what we've seen despite the struggles as of late from Buddy Hield.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of what I would have expected from Joe. I would expect that in part because I think he understands that a player of Buddy Hield's archetype is going to be very good for him. And likewise, he will be very good for Buddy Hield. But I also expect when Joe comes back after a couple of weeks of not talking to the media, he would be supportive in that regard anyway. And also, you just expect that he wants to play basketball. Like, as much as fans might question, should they shut him down? And I've said this multiple times. I don't think this is the kind of injury where you need to go that cautious with it. In no way would I expect Joel Embiid to say, hey, you know what? I might have a 2% chance better of recovering from this injury if I miss a playoff run. That's just not how he's wired. He spent most of today's press conference talking about
That's what these guys work for, right? Is to play in the playoffs.
And especially a guy like Joel Embiid, you can talk about his playoff failures. He wants to prove that narrative wrong. Now, will he, won't he? That's what will be fun to watch. That's why playoffs are great. You have a chance to rewrite it. But he believes that he will, that he can, and he wants the shot to do that. You wouldn't expect him to almost say anything else. But I do earnestly believe that he believes Buddy Hield is going to be great for him, and that's a good addition for him. I don't doubt that at all.
And look, I think the Lowry thing, Lowry's further down the pecking order, right? But he's played a ton since he's gotten here. And I think Joel has seen, the leadership from him, the connectivity that he provides on offense, all that. And I think he at least sounded excited about the prospect of playing with Lowry. Because, look, Lowry's skill set also works really well with Joel. It's not the same amount of synergy as playing with Buddy, where you can run the two-man game and do the things that he did with JJ, with Seth, and other guys that he's played with in the past. But Lowry, as just like a guy you play in a 4-out, 1-in offense, willing catch-and-shoot guy, someone who can drive and hit those little drop-off passes, make some plays in transition, et cetera, et cetera. I think he certainly sees the value in that too. And so I think another thing that jumped out while we're on the subject was the subject was broached about, did you feel pressure to play based on the outside dialogue? I know we talked a lot about the Denver game and the fallout from that and what have you. And he dismissed that basically out of hand and then went on to say, as he's talking about stat thresholds and not being able to be MVP, All NBA, whatever. One of the things that he said, which I think is really important for people to hear, is that, look, like the stats are all well and good, but the important thing is that they're leading to winning, right? Like if he was just a guy who's putting up stats and the team's like 500 with him on the floor, it's like, well, to what end? And his point was, yes, I'm getting those stats, but the thing is, they're driving the team. We are winning with me playing this way. And so there's that feedback loop. Like, okay, we keep winning. I can keep playing this way. And if I don't think he's, pig-headed enough, selfish enough, stubborn enough to, if he was putting up numbers on this team this year, despite being less than 100% and they're losing, I think Joel is introspective enough to say, all right, Nick, all right, Tyrese, all right, Tobias, whoever, we got to figure out a different way, a different plan, and not play through me as much. And so that's one of the things that always gets lost. Like Joel is a ball dominant player and has succeeded as the hub of the offense, all this stuff. And it's allowed certain people to paint him a certain way. At the end of the day, he wants to win. Like all guys who are star level players want to win and have their numbers and touches and whatever, but don't ever get it confused that Joel wants to win first and foremost. Like that is what is at the top of his mind. It's why, like, the way that I think you see that manifest the most is just the effort that he gives on defense and the way that he's able to prop up this group in spite of being the league's leading scorer for, it would have been 3 years in a row officially, but will be 2 and an unofficial 3 this season. I think you see that from him. And so I want people to hear that was one of the things he said today. Like, look, the scoring titles and all that is nice. And I want to go for things like that if I'm available, but none of it matters if it's not connected to and driving winning. That is his number one concern. And it's why he wants to come back. He thinks even if he's less than 100%, that he can help this team.
And the only reason for him to come back now, to your point, is the playoffs and trying to win a championship. He's not qualified anymore for any of those individual acknowledgments from the league, whether it's the scoring title, the All NBA, All Defense, certainly the MVP. That's the only reason for him to come back. All right, Derek, more stuff from today from Joel Embiid. Some other things that stood out to you. He talked about the Olympics as well.
Yep.
And that was a big piece of it and making sense of it all.
Yeah, I mean, he's still, newsflash, still plans on playing in the Olympics if he's healthy and good to go. I don't think anybody expects otherwise. And I think probably the one that's going to get the most attention is he said for 2 months, he was not right. He was playing at 60, 70%, and he was still able to do what he was able to do. But he felt, pressure to go out there and try to win. He mentioned specifically leading up to that Golden State game that they had lost a couple games in a row. The players were out of the lineup. But his knee was bothering him beforehand. And I think that's something we all had eyes. We all watched it. He was missing games because of soreness. But it sounded like he was not well and not right for quite a while beforehand. And I think if you're looking for some sort of, reassurance or at least a silver lining here, it's maybe that procedure and this time off has a chance to get him right and better than he was for quite a while before that injury happened. And if he comes back in enough time where he can ramp back up, you have a long enough ramp, because this is a season of ramps, to get him back up to where he needs to be. Maybe they have a better chance.
We need to get a ramp for in here.
We really do.
I can't skateboard, but maybe
no,
we'll
you
learn.
Don't want. Nope. I do not need to even try that. I like all of my bones not broken. I'm way too old for that.
I thought you were a snowboarder. Basically the
Twice
same.
Twice a year.
Okay.
But I think that's probably what's going to get the most attention, and probably rightfully so.
I asked him directly, was there any thought to go in the rest and rehab route rather than the procedure? And he essentially came out and said this is the only real option, which dovetails with the 2-month thing, right? Like, I think in his mind, and I guess the doctor's mind, he said he talked to, 5 specialists about what he should do. And the view must have been, hey, we've tried to get me right and get back on the right track. And this has been maybe not a constant concern, but a lingering problem. It's been up and down and it flares up and there are issues. So let's get it done. Take me out for as long as is necessary to get me right, and see where we're at the end of the season. So I thought that was noteworthy, because I know there was some discussion like, well, what is he going to do or what should they do? And he made it sound like it wasn't much of a debate basically at all.
That's important because when he had the injury to his knees before and we see him go through the playoffs and then you go into the offseason and never hear about any surgery and wondering if he's going to get any procedure done to correct these issues, because the option was surgery or non-surgery, and this is the offseason, he decided no surgery and just heal up and rest and rehab. That's important because right now, as you said a little bit earlier too, that he wants to be back and win. There are no individual accolades available to him. It's just strictly about winning the championship.
We all silly like the mayor.